Midnight descended like a shroud over the isolated rural home, and the first rumble echoed from the basement below, vibrating through the floor like an unseen force awakening in the darkness. I was 19, house-sitting for my aunt while she vacationed, alone in this fixer-upper with its damp, cluttered basement I'd always avoided, unnerved by the musty smell that wafted up earlier. I'd locked the basement door tight, but now, with only the crickets chirping outside, the rumble grew into a deep groan, like something heavy dragging slowly across the cold concrete below. I sat bolt upright in the guest bed, my ears straining against the silence that followed, heart pounding as the isolation pressed in, making every shadow feel alive and watchful. Then came a sudden bang, like a door slamming shut down there. Just animals? I muttered to myself, but I knew the house was sealed tight, no way for anything to get in. Grabbing my flashlight with trembling hands, I tiptoed downstairs, the wooden floors icy cold under my bare feet, each step amplifying the dread building in my chest. The basement door was ajar now, the lock mysteriously unturned, a faint, musty draft seeping out like an invitation from the unknown depths below. Heart lodged in my throat, I pushed the door open wider, my flashlight beam cutting through the thick darkness, revealing stairs descending into an endless, suffocating blackness. The air grew heavy with dust and a sharp metallic tang, clinging to my skin as I stepped halfway down, the beam shaking in my grip from the cold and fear. Suddenly, a voice echoed up, sounding eerily like mine, but distorted and pleading. "Help me." It sent a chill racing through me, freezing me in place on the stairs. I froze, whispering hoarsely, "Who's there?" But no answer came, just the echoes bouncing mockingly off the damp walls, amplifying my growing isolation. At the bottom, the basement stretched out like a forgotten tomb, boxes piled high with shadows twisting unnaturally in the flashlight's wavering light. The scratching began then, faint but insistent, coming from behind a stack of old crates, my pulse thundering in my ears as I edged closer. Behind the stack, a cracked mirror, reflecting my own terrified face. But in its depths, another figure moved independently, its hand reaching out toward me. Dread choked me like icy fingers around my throat. I backed away slowly, but the stairs behind seemed to stretch longer now, the door above impossibly far. Whispers filled the space around me, fragments of old conversations, screams cut short mid-breath, echoing from the walls like trapped souls crying out. The dragging sound resumed, closer this time, heavy and deliberate, vibrating through the floor as if something was pulling itself toward me in the dark. Then something unseen brushed my ankle, cold, clammy, like decayed flesh grazing my skin, sending a wave of pure terror surging through my body. I bolted up the stairs in blind panic, slamming the door behind me and barricading it with whatever furniture I could drag, my hands shaking uncontrollably. The night wore on endlessly, bangs and desperate pleas shaking the floor beneath me, as if the basement itself was alive and demanding entry. Come morning's first light, I fled the house, heart still racing, waiting anxiously for my aunt's return to confront what I'd experienced. She confessed then, her voice trembling. The basement held relics from a family tragedy, a relative buried alive in a collapse decades ago, body never recovered. Echoes, she called them, remnants of that horror lingering in the walls, forever trapped and calling out to the living above. I never house sat for her again, vowing to stay far from that place, but the memory haunted me like a shadow I couldn't escape. But in quiet nights alone, even in my own home, I still hear that faint dragging from below, wondering if it's calling specifically for me. I recall the initial rumble like a shroud falling, vibrating through the bed, pulling me into a nightmare that felt all too real. The musty smell invaded everything, thick and oppressive, as if the basement was breathing its decay upward through the cracks in the floor. Descending those stairs, the metallic tang grew stronger, like blood mixed with rust, heightening the sense of something ancient and wrong lurking below. The whispers were fragmented pleas and screams, cutting through the air like shards of glass, embedding themselves in my mind forever. Now the echoes persist in my quietest moments, a cold reminder that some tragedies never truly end. They just wait below, calling out eternally. It was just past midnight when I realized the house wasn't empty. I'd been home alone for the weekend, my parents off on some anniversary trip, leaving me, a 17-year-old who thought she could handle anything, in charge of our creaky old Victorian on the edge of town. The wind howled outside like a distant scream, but inside, the silence was thicker, broken only by the occasional tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. I felt a strange unease settling in, as if the house itself was watching me. I was curled up on the couch, scrolling through my phone under a blanket, when I heard it, a faint whisper, like someone murmuring secrets through the wall behind me. My heart skipped a beat, but I tried to ignore it. At first, I dismissed it as the house settling, those old bones groaning under the weight of a century. But it came again, closer this time, words I couldn't quite make out, slithering through the plaster like smoke. "Hello?" I called out, my voice cracking in the empty living room. No answer, just the echo of my own breath. The silence felt heavier now, pressing down on me like an invisible weight. I muted my phone, straining to listen. There it was. "Come closer." My heart stuttered in my chest, a cold chill racing down my spine as the words hung in the air. I pressed my ear to the wall, the cool surface sending chills through my body. The whispers grew, a chorus now, overlapping in hushed tones. Names, dates, pleas. They sounded trapped, so desperate. Shaking it off as paranoia, I'd watched too many horror flicks that week. I headed upstairs to my room, flipping on every light along the way. But the fear lingered, gnawing at the edges of my mind. The stairs creaked under my feet, each step amplifying the isolation. My room felt safer, with its familiar posters and cluttered desk, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. But as I lay in bed, the whispers followed. They seeped from the vents, from under the door, even from the closet I'd left cracked open. "We see you, alone," the words pierced the darkness. I bolted upright, sweat beading on my forehead despite the chill in the air. Was it the neighbors? A prank? My mind raced with possibilities, but none eased the growing terror. I grabbed my phone to call a friend, but the battery was dead. Impossible. It had been at 80% downstairs. Panic rose like a wave, crashing over me in the silent room. Panic rising, I crept to the window, peering into the moonlit yard. Nothing but shadows dancing from the trees, twisting like living things in the night. Back in bed, I pulled the covers over my head, telling myself it was all in my mind. Hours ticked by, or maybe minutes. Time blurred in the dark, warped by fear. Then, a new sound, a scratching, like nails dragging across wood, coming from inside the walls. It moved, circling the room, getting louder, closer, sending shivers through my body. I froze, every muscle taut, as the whispers clarified, "We've been waiting for someone like you." The words echoed in my head, filling me with inescapable dread. By dawn, I was a wreck, huddled in the corner, eyes wide with exhaustion and fear. The night had broken me, leaving only shadows of sanity behind. When my parents returned that evening, I blurted it all out, my voice trembling. They laughed it off, blaming my imagination, but I knew the truth lingered in the walls. But that night, as we sat for dinner, I heard it again, a single whisper from the wall beside me. "They're next." My blood ran cold, the threat now spreading. We moved out a month later, after Dad found the old newspaper clippings in the attic. Stories of a family walled up alive during a renovation in the 1920s. Their bodies never recovered. Sometimes, in my new apartment, I still wake to whispers in the night, wondering if they followed me. The house may be gone, but the voices remain. In the quiet moments, I clutch my necklace, remembering the shadows that formed like whispering mouths on the ceiling, the fear that never truly left. I recall flipping on the hallway lights, each bulb flickering with an unnatural indigo hue, shadows retreating only to reform behind me, always watching. The closet door cracked open wider on its own, a dark void inside with faint glowing eyes peering out. My back turned as terror gripped my soul. My hand trembled as I reached for the door handle, the walls around me etched with moving scratch marks, the air thick with impending doom. The grandfather clock's face distorted like a screaming mouth, shadows pooling at its base, my silhouette distant in the hall, time itself twisted by horror. Back on the couch, the first whisper emerged as a misty tendril from the wall, invading my space, the blanket no longer a shield from the unknown. Midway up the stairs, the wall beside me bulged subtly outward, indigo glow seeping through, freezing me in place with raw, primal fear. From the vents, misty whispers snaked toward the bed like tendrils, my form blurred in the background, the invasion feeling all too personal and close. In the new apartment's mirror, my face overlaid with whispering silhouettes, the room shifting in subtle parallels parallax, the unease eternal, the whispers forever.